The morning Mara Ellison crossed the Ashen Gate into the Dragon Empire, she had 47 letters in her satchel, a bruised knee from the mountain path, and absolutely no patience for nonsense. She was a courier. Nothing more. The Ashen Gate was the only official crossing between the Human Confederation and the Dragon Empire, a towering archway of black obsidian carved with the names of treaties no one remembered signing. 2 Imperial sentinels stood on the other side. They were large, copper-scaled, with eyes like molten coins. Each one stood twice the height of a man. They stared at her. She stared back. "Delivery for the Imperial Administrative Office," Mara said, patting her satchel. "Diplomatic correspondence. Stamped and sealed by the Confederation Postmaster. I've done this route 11 times." The left sentinel, whose name, she would later learn, was Vorith, lowered his enormous head and examined her with one burning eye. His nostrils flared. A thin line of smoke curled from between his teeth. "You are the same human." "The small one." "I prefer efficient," Mara said. "Are you going to let me through, or are we doing this again?" Vorith stepped aside. She walked through. What the sentinels did not say, what they never said to her face, was that Mara Ellison had become something of a legend at the gate. It had started 3 years ago, on her second crossing. A noble dragon by the name of Lord Cassivar had been in a foul mood that day. He was of the old blood, silver-scaled, enormous, with a wingspan that could shadow an entire village. He had been waiting for a trade shipment that was delayed, and he had decided, in the manner of powerful creatures everywhere, that his frustration required a target. That target had been Mara. He had blocked her path on the road leading into the capital, Embroth. He had demanded she open her satchel for inspection, not official inspection, just his personal curiosity. He had called her small thing and pink-fleshed walker and asked if she was lost. Mara Ellison had looked up at Lord Cassivar, 7 meters of ancient, armored dragon who could reduce her to a smear of ash with a single breath, and said, very calmly, "Lord Cassivar. Those letters are sealed under Diplomatic Compact Article 9, which your Empress ratified personally. If you open that satchel, you will be in breach of Imperial Treaty law. I will note the breach, file the report, and your Empress will hear about it before sunset. Now. Would you like to move, or would you like me to start writing?" She had held up her courier's log and a pen. Lord Cassivar had stared at her for a very long time. Then he had moved. Word traveled fast in the Dragon Empire. Dragons lived for centuries, and they had long memories, and they loved nothing more than a remarkable story. By the time Mara completed her 3rd route, the tale of the human courier who had faced down Lord Cassivar with a pen and a policy document had spread through every courier station, guard post, and noble court between the gate and the capital. They had started calling her Irathen Veka in the old tongue. It meant, roughly, the one who does not flinch. Mara did not know this. She was busy delivering letters. Her 11th crossing was supposed to be routine. 47 letters. 2 official trade contracts. 1 personal parcel addressed to a minor noble's daughter who had been studying in the Confederation and was sending home pressed flowers from a human garden. Mara liked that one best. She was 3 miles into Imperial territory, moving at her usual brisk pace, when she rounded a bend in the road and found it blocked. Not by 1 dragon this time. By 12. They were arranged in a formation she didn't recognize, low to the ground, wings folded, heads tilted at an angle that made them look, somehow, expectant. The smallest of them was still larger than a draft horse. The largest had scales the color of midnight and a scar running from his left eye to his jaw that suggested he had survived something catastrophic and come out annoyed rather than humbled. Mara stopped walking. She assessed the situation the way she assessed every situation, practically. "I'm on a schedule," she said to the group. "Is this official Imperial business, or personal?" The largest dragon, the scarred one, spoke. His voice was a low rumble, like boulders settling. Courier Mara Ellison of the Human Confederation. That's me. You are summoned. Mara considered this. Summoned by whom? A pause. The dragons exchanged a look that she had learned to read over 3 years of working this route. It was the look they got when a human said something that surprised them with its directness. By the Empress, the scarred dragon said. Seraphix, first of her name, sovereign of Embroth, keeper of the Ember Throne. Is she dissatisfied with the mail service? Mara asked. Because if there's a complaint, I can file. She is not dissatisfied, the scarred dragon said, and something in his rumble sounded almost amused. She wishes to meet you. The Ember Throne room was exactly as absurd as Mara had imagined. Everything was built for creatures 4 times her size. The ceiling disappeared into distant darkness. The columns were carved from volcanic stone. Torches burned with a blue-white fire that produced no smoke. The floor was black glass, polished to a mirror shine, and Mara's boots made small, precise sounds as she walked its length. At the far end, on a throne that looked like someone had asked a mountain to sit down and make itself comfortable, was Empress Seraphix. She was old. Mara could feel it without knowing how, something in the density of her presence, the way the air itself seemed to defer to her. Her scales were deep crimson shading to black at the edges, and her eyes were the color of a forge at full heat. She was enormous. She was ancient. She was watching Mara with an expression that Mara couldn't quite read. Mara stopped at the appropriate distance, as marked by the floor tiles, and inclined her head, the correct diplomatic gesture for a non-citizen meeting imperial royalty. Empress, she said. Courier, said Seraphix. Her voice was the kind of quiet that filled large spaces completely. You have walked these roads 11 times. Yes. You have faced down 3 of my nobles, reported 2 border violations, corrected an administrative error in the Eastern Relay Station that had been misrouting packages for 6 years, and taught the gate sentinels how to use the new Confederation stamping system. Mara blinked. The stamps have a specific order. It wasn't complicated. You did it, the Empress said, because it was your job. Yes. Seraphix regarded her for a long moment. Do you know what my advisors told me when I first allowed human couriers on imperial roads? I can guess. They said humans were fragile. Short-lived. Too small to be useful, too emotional to be reliable. They said the route would fail within a season. The Empress's tail moved, a slow, deliberate sweep across the black floor. Do you know what I have observed instead? Mara waited. I have observed, said Seraphix, that the most reliable thing on any road in this empire is a human with a job to do. The silence that followed was not uncomfortable. It was the kind of silence that meant something was settling into place. My advisors were wrong, the Empress said simply. They often are, when it comes to humans. You are not fragile. You are precise. You do not survive because you are strong. You survive because you decide to, and then you find the method. She leaned forward slightly, and the torchlight caught the edges of her scales. That is a more dangerous thing than strength. Mara thought about Lord Cassivar. About a pen and a policy document and a very simple calculation, what are the consequences, and who controls them? I just delivered the letters, she said. Seraphix showed her teeth. It took Mara a moment to recognize it as a smile. Yes, said the Empress. You did. Every time. Without fail. Without fear. She rose from the throne, slowly, deliberately, in the manner of something that has not needed to hurry in centuries. And then, with a grace that made the vast room feel suddenly intimate, Empress Seraphix, first of her name, sovereign of Embroth, keeper of the Ember Throne, lowered her great head. A bow. To a courier. To Mara Ellison, who had 47 letters in her satchel and a bruised knee and no patience for nonsense. From outside, through the vast stone walls, she heard it begin, a sound like distant thunder that was not thunder. The escort dragons. The gate sentinels. Every imperial guard in the courtyard. All of them, bowing. Mara stood very still. Then she reached into her satchel and pulled out a sealed letter. "I have one for you, actually," she said. "Trade correspondence from the Confederation Commerce Office. Second-tier priority, needs a response within 30 days. The Empress stared at her. Mara held out the letter. After a moment, Seraphix took it delicately, with the very tip of one enormous talon. And then she laughed. It was a sound like a volcano remembering joy. It filled the throne room and rolled out into the courtyard and sent 3 junior guards scrambling for cover before they realized what it was. 48 crossings more, the Empress said, when the laughter had settled into something warm and lingering. And then you will come back, and we will discuss something more permanent. Mara shouldered her satchel. "I'll check my schedule," she said. She walked back down the black glass floor, her boots making their small, precise sounds, and she did not look back, not because she was afraid, but because she had a route to finish. She was a courier. She had letters to deliver. And every dragon she passed on the way out bowed their ancient heads as she walked by.